What happens when two dudes, one a retired Navy SEAL commander in Colorado Springs, and the other a hippie meditation teacher in New York City, get together to discuss living mindfully? That's a great question, because we don't know what will happen either. Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness with co-hosts John McCaskill and Will Schneider. Each week, we take an authentic dive into how mindfulness continually impacts our lives, deepens our relationships, and allows us to be emotionally alive. Now, on to the show.
Your health and youthfulness are directly linked not only to how much water you drink, but also how well your body gets water into your cells. It's the oils and fats that make cellular hydration possible. Water literally has to cross over a oil-guarded barrier to get inside your cells. You can drink all you want, but if water doesn't get past this membrane, hydration isn't really happening. Quench is that quote is from a book called Quench.
Do you notice you can't seem to lose weight even when trying? Do you notice increased thirst? Do you feel constipated? Do you notice a decrease in your urine output? Do you feel bloated? Do you notice brain fog? Do you have afternoon fatigue? Do you struggle with daytime sleepiness? Do you notice any dizziness, experience poor sleep, feel muscle stiffness, feel joint pain, have headaches, have dry skin, have chapped lips? Notice if your eyes are dry, notice if your mouth or throat is dry or have bad breath. Then it's likely you're chronically dehydrated. And this episode of Men Talking Mindfulness is for you.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Men Talking Mindfulness, where we do the best we can to demystify and make mindfulness meaningful to you. I'll get that one of these days, John. Hey, I'm Will Schneider here in New York City, joined by my co-host and brother from another mother, John McCaskill, over there in Colorado Springs. Today, we have Dr. Dana Cohen joining the show. She's a co-author of Quench, and the subtitle of Quench is Beat Fatigue, Drop Weight, and Heal Your Body with the New Science of Optimum Hydration. I should also note that stated in the cover of the book is 8 glasses a day is not the way. Maybe you're asking yourself, what does optimal hydration have to do with mindfulness? Well, without a sound body, there is very little opportunity to access a sound mind. And wait for it. Here's a little secret. Meditation can actually help you keep hydrated too. Well, with that being said, we have a jam-packed show today, and we are stoked to welcome Dr. Dana Cohen. Personally, I have been obsessed with optimal hydration. I've been waiting and wanting to speak to an expert like Dr. Cohen for years. So, hey, before we start the show, let's head over to Commander McCaskill for some announcements. How you doing, John?
I'm doing well. Thanks, brother. Yeah, good to be here with you. Actually, I'm going to cut it short. We don't have too many announcements. Will and I are here with you with Men Talking Mindfulness every week. If you can, give us a like, subscribe on YouTube, give us a review on the podcast. But that's really all I have for this week. So let's go ahead and bring Dr. Dana Cohen up on the screen here with us. Welcome, Dr. Dana. How are you?
Hi, great. Thank you.
Good to have you. We're going to get into your bio here. Dr. Dana Cohen has worked side by side with the late Dr. Robert Atkins, a true pioneer in the field of integrative medicine. And now, in that same field, Dr. Cohen is a well-respected and beloved clinician. She has helped thousands of patients find relief from a variety of health problems, utilizing the principles of integrative and functional medicine, focusing on nutrition and limiting her patients' reliance on prescription medications by using diet, lifestyle changes, and nutritional supplementation. She is a founding member of the Scientific Advisory Board for the Organic and Natural Health Association and is on the Scientific Advisory Board of Cure Hydration and the Health and Wellness Advisor for Essentia Water. Her first book, Quench, with co-author Gina Bria, has been published in 6 languages, has garnered rave reviews, and has a cult following of devotees, which now includes both Will and myself. We're very excited to have Dr. Cohen on the show today and excited to get into the show. But first, let's get grounded. Back over to you, Will.
I think you can probably tell that I definitely need some grounding. So let's find some breath in order to make that grounding happen. So yeah, you can do this grounding practice whether you're driving, whether you're mowing the grass, or if you're sitting at your desk or sitting down somewhere. Ground your feet on the floor. Ground your hands and your thighs if you like. You can close the eyes if that's available for you. And let's just do some simple, easy, smooth, deep breathing to help relax the body and the mind. Let's start with the next nice exhale out the mouth. Good. We'll take a nice big inhale through the nose. Keep going. Big, big, big breath in. Feel that balloon in your torso. And exhale out the mouth nice and easy. And we'll keep going. In, big breath. Out, smooth, cooling sigh. Yeah, let the face melt and the shoulders relax on the exhales, and deepen your grounding into your feet or your sit bones. And again, in breath. Out breath. There we go. Let's just do a few more. Keep going. In and out. And it's not just the depth of your breath, but also the smooth quality that you can, if you could bring that to your breath, it really helps you get into that deeper grounding and, a softer mind and body. So let's do a few more. In smoothly. Out smooth and softly. Great. And we'll just do one more round in. And out. Good. And just take a moment now, just those first, minute and a half or so that we've done this breathing, just notice how you're feeling. Do you feel more grounded? Do you feel more relaxed? And kind of taking this internal inventory, this internal self, if you will, helps you become more aware of your emotional self, which will help you, a little bit. Every time you become more aware of your emotion, you start to rise in that emotional intelligence, which really will help to serve you in any situation, anytime. So maybe bring a little movement, little micro movement. We're going to talk about what those are all about into your head, your neck, or your shoulders. Oh, and when you're ready, open your eyes and let's get this show on the road. Dr. Cohen, Dr. Dana, thank you so much for coming on the show today. We're really excited, to jump into this conversation. And I think it'd be a great place to start is like, why has optimal hydration fascinated you? I mean, you went out and wrote a book. Where did this all begin?
So, I have been practicing nutrition medicine for 25 years, at the 25 years I've been in practice. And hydration has always come up. It's always one of the first questions I ask when I ask about a patient's diet. Do you think you drink enough water? It's always asked about. It's always talked about. And by the way, most people say, no, I don't think I drink enough water. Almost 99%, including my, athletes and superstar patients. So, but it wasn't until Gina, my co-author, Gina Brea, came and spoke to me. She called one day and she said, I was wondering if I could speak to you about, I run this thing called the Hydration Foundation, and I wanted to speak to you about hydration and what we do. And I remember thinking, oh, she's going to sell me some kind of water purifier Ponzi scheme thing. But I was feeling really generous, and I knew the person who referred her. I was like, sure, come on in. And she sat down in front of me and started to tell me about Dr. Pollack's work, Gerald Pollack's work, and completely blew my mind. And so Dr. Gerald Pollack is a leading world water researcher based at University of Washington in Seattle. And so that's where it all started. And I remember and then she started telling me about her thesis as an anthropologist. She wrote about how desert people hydrate. And they certainly don't drink 8 glasses of water a day and walk around with water bottles, and then anthropologically too. And we just had so much in common. And her first thing she brought to me was a smoothie. She sat down in front of me and presented it to me. And then I looked at her, and as she's saying, and by the way, having worked for Dr. Atkins, I've worked for a bunch of other very incredible mentors and holistic doctors. I've always known I had to write a book. I just never knew what I want, just to have a platform in this field.
Right.
And I never, and truth is, I never knew what I wanted to write about. I didn't want to write another book about hormones or thyroid, which is what I do so much of, because you have to go see your doctor and you have to get a prescription. And, it's like so I just looked at her and I said, oh my God, Gina, I said, this is the book. This is the book I want to write. Do you want to write this book with me? And she's never thinking that this is where it was going to go. So that's how it all came to be. And that was now quite like almost 6 years ago, maybe even a little bit longer than that, 6.5 years ago. And then we really started to delve into the research of water science. And honestly, I had no idea what I was getting myself into and how difficult it was and how complicated the most simple molecule in the world was. But we forged through and wrote this book. I'm really proud of it. And I think it's helped a lot of people from the feedback that I've gotten. And I am even now more so passionate about it.
What made it so difficult and such a challenge to study something that is 2/3 of our planet and like 2/3 of our body?
And the simplest molecule, H2O, right? You think
there you go.
It's what's difficult is that there are, first of all, no ways to truly measure what I call subclinical dehydration. There's no easy way to say like, oh, you're subclinically dehydrated. You need to drink more water. Like, what exactly? How much water should you drink? Let alone that stuff is very nebulous. Like, we don't really know. But then the science, even the science of Dr. Pollack, and we talk a little bit about this in the book, like nobody really agrees that the phases of water. So let me just tell you right now what it is, people listening. So Dr. Pollack has discovered that there's a fourth phase of water. This is what was mind blowing to me, right?
Same here. I was like, what?
Yeah, we all know that water exists as liquid, ice, and vapor. You learn that in elementary school. That same, and I remember even learning that in elementary school, thinking like, wow, how could that be the same molecule? It's ice, it's liquid, it's vapor, yet it's the same molecule. How is that? But now there's this fourth phase, and that's gel water or structured water. Dr. Pollack calls it easy water. And there's a lot of scientists that don't necessarily agree on that. Everybody agrees that there is some other phase of water, that there is some other form that this water exists in. But when you start to read Dr. Pollack's work, it's how those H2O molecules, how they literally structure upon each other. And in that structuring, they start to share electrons. And it's in that sharing of electrons that they actually maybe even change their chemical equation. And so he called it's H3O2. And what he says makes perfect sense to me. And there's a lot of people that absolutely agree with him, by the way. So it was that real physiological and electrical science that I don't have a big background in, that I was like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? So we dove in and got help and really tried to understand it as best we could. But the truth is the bottom line in the book is that each individual needs to know what their own personal set point is, and what you feel the best at as far as hydration. I can't say to you, you need 8 glasses of water a day. And if you think about it, how does a 6'2" athlete need 8 glasses and a 5'2", non-athlete woman need the same amount of water? It doesn't make sense. How much what environments you live in, how much you're sweating, all these factors play, what you're eating, a big thing that really comes into play.
Yeah.
Well, in the book, I'm glad you mentioned environments there. In the book, Gina, she talked about her mother becoming dehydrated in the nursing home. And I was surprised to learn how and where we get dehydrated. Can you talk about what type of environments that people don't necessarily associate with dehydration? I mean, we obviously think about the desert when we think about getting dehydrated, but we don't think about the office space and the lighting and the air conditioning and everything else that comes into play with dehydrating us. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So artificial environments, like you said, lighting, air conditioning. Will may know this as much as I know it. Living in New York City in the wintertime, the radiators that you have no control out of are sucking all of that hydration. Do you remember putting like pots on your radiators just to get some moisture
Yep.
in the air?
Mm,
People don't talk about that at all. I think winter is probably more dehydrating than summertime and when we're out and sweating. So airplanes are the most there's no moisture in that environment.
right.
um,
Mm.
the other things, I mean, so the food that we're eating, processed food, is part of our, in the big picture of things that are dehydrating our worlds. So processed foods, what it takes to metabolize them. Medications. When I looked at this, I was blown away that there is a list of medications reported to the FDA to overtly dehydrate people, and where they've ended up in the emergency room. And I'm not even talking about things like antihistamines, which we know sucks every ounce of hydration out of us. I'm not talking about diuretics, which literally makes us pee out hydration.
Right.
Things like the purple pill, so acid blockers, aspirin,
Wow.
Ambien. Like there was, I mean, everything you could think about were very specific medications that have been reported to the FDA that ended up people in the emergency room for dehydration. So medications is another one.
Mm,
Wow.
Our sedentary lifestyles is a huge. Um, I don't know if it's necessarily dehydration. I don't know if it necessarily sucks water out of hydration out of us, but it adds to the problem of
it
dehydration.
doesn't get from what I
Does
read in the book, it doesn't get the water where we need it, right? It doesn't get it moved around in the body. And right before the show, I showed you this, but for those who are tuning in, we're going to talk about micro-movements, which Will mentioned earlier. The book inspired me to get this crazy looking contraption, which is just some pedals that sit underneath my desk, because I sit in artificial light a lot of the day these days. It's air conditioned or heated depending on the weather. And I know it is dehydrating. I get home at the end of the day and I'm smoked. I'm exhausted. And it's because I'm dehydrated, or at least that's a good portion of it. And this
Yeah.
little guy, and along with this guy, the bottle right next to me that now has chia seeds and some sea salt in it, which we'll talk about, it's got me feeling, I feel awesome. I feel
In-
so much better just after doing this for a few weeks since we started reading the book. I mean, Will read it a while ago, but I just recently read it. But yeah, it's awesome, Dr. Dana.
that's that's the beauty. This is simple. This is simple stuff. Like
Yeah,
this is,
exactly.
everybody can do it. And I still to this day I get blown away when people say like, all I did was add some chia seeds and a little lemon squeeze and some salt to my water, and I feel unbelievable. So
Wow.
Yeah.
everybody listening, this can really change, everything. It's a quick fix. It's not something you need to do for 3 months, and before you notice a difference. People notice a difference in one day. It's
Right.
that
Yeah.
simple. But the one thing I will say, and my patients know this about me, I'm not a stickler when I don't want to say not all the time, but I'm not a stickler when it comes to like diet. Like I'll put somebody on a low FODMAPs diet or some kind of, specialized diet. And it depends on what I'm treating. But for the most part, I always give people a little leeway room. We're all humans. We all need to, the one thing I say is that hydration, you need to stay on top of it day in and day out. That's the one
Yeah.
stickler. Like if you have to do anything, stay on top of your hydration. Be aware of it, think about it all the time, and you will thrive. And let me say one more thing, because the most important thing I'm going to say today is this sentence here. The single most important thing you can do to treat and prevent chronic disease is learn how to hydrate, hands down. Before you go on any diet, any supplement, any medication, learn how to hydrate first.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
We can wrap up the show. Thanks so
Yeah,
much.
you go. Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing in the book is you have several, I don't know if they're testimonials as much as like stories of patients coming to you with these chronic problems, and you taking them through and your Quench program, and just within a few days, like they're not just shifting physiologically, right? But hydration has a massive effect on how we're feeling as well.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
So maybe
everything.
maybe we can drive a little bit, because like I have here, how does it affect our bodies, our mind, and our emotions when we're dehydrated? Like, so let's go, when we're dehydrated, what's going on there? And then when we get to that optimal hydration, by being more aware of of how much. And again, I'm so glad you said this, and I'm just going to reinforce it. It is a daily pursuit to stay hydrated, because our water, our body is continually, manufacturing itself and needs hydration in order to energize and do everything that we have in this amazing body runs through the water. So let's go take a step back and just talk about, what dehydration does to our mind, our body, and our moods would be, I think, a good place.
So I think the more important question is, how do we know that we're dehydrated? So,
Please.
All right, let's start there. So I think there's lots, like a lot of people know these things: constipation, headaches, dry skin, all the things you mentioned right at the beginning. So we, there's those things that we can look at. But I think if the one thing, it's not really a sign or a symptom, but I think the one thing that we all need to, one of the most important things that we need to look for and really strive for is that we are meant to urinate every 2 or 3 hours during our waking hours, right? So if you can strive for that one thing, forget about how much water am I drinking, forget about even like the color of your urine. Like a lot of people talk about the color of your urine, it should be a nice straw colored. I think that's okay. It's pretty good, but it's not, have been some studies that show it does, that it doesn't really play that much of a role in the hydration story. And if you're taking, if you eat beets the night before, or if you're taking B vitamins or something, it's right. Not a great thing. I think you want to look at your urine output, and of anything, rules of thumbs that I can give you, this is the one thing that I can really say. We're meant to urinate every 2 or 3 hours during our waking hours. So really look for that, strive for that. And, there's still some days that I've sat at my office for 8 hours straight and haven't gotten up to pee because I've been so in my head and crazy. And I'm like, what am I doing? So maybe I don't know. You gotta just look at it from the day before, maybe even hashtag how many times you pee so you remember, and then look back from the day before and say, okay, I didn't eat well that day. I didn't drink enough that day. So stay on top of it that way. I want to just say, going back to your original question, sorry, I just went on a tangent.
No, all good. I mean, there's so much to talk about here, Dr. Dana, and I appreciate you just breaking it down, man. You're sharing a lot of wisdom in rapid fire, and I love it. So keep bringing it, please. No.
So your question was about dehydration. So we know when we are even 1 or 2% dehydrated, we start to lose cognitive ability. Wow. And I'm going to tell you that happens to us at multiple times throughout the day. Wow. even if you're not exercising, if you're not hydrating, but breathing, we're breathing off vapor. Right. We are moving, we're peeing, we're pooping, like all those things are getting rid of, we're sweating, but even if you're not working out, we're losing hydration every day. So when we're 1 to 2% dehydrated, then we're starting to lose cognitive ability, brain fog, that kind of thing starts to start. Yeah.
And that 1-2%, that's our overall body weight to 1%. Is that what that is?
Yeah, 1 to 2% of our body weight. Yeah. 1 to 2% of our hydration. I'm sorry. No. 1 to and I forget how to measure that. I have to look back at it. It's been a while. But there's a definite way to measure what 1 to 2% of our volume. It's actually the volume, our liquid volume in our blood and serum and all that stuff that goes along with lymph.
Okay, great. Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll keep going. So we're at 1-2%, 1 to 2%. We have cognitive decline.
Yeah. So the other thing I just want to say, you talk about happiness and this is, so I just also want to say, there's a doctor who I love, and he could never have said this more eloquently, and it speaks to so much of what I say. There's a difference between science and advocacy, right? Meaning science is science. It's there, it's statistics. This is what it shows. A lot about hydration and water is advocacy, right? So the 8 glasses a day is advocacy. It's never been studied. So I just want to be clear that a lot of what I'm talking about is just that. It's, I can't say to you, this is proven, this is science, this is what the statistics show. So I just want to say that, but I will say to you from a clinical standpoint and what I see, like that immediately people change. They feel it in a very short period of time. Physically, things get better. I see lab tests getting better. I see weight coming off. I see cholesterol getting better. I see them being happier. So, but what I was going to say about happiness is, when you're not healthy, you're not happy. And the truth is, that is, for me, the single greatest parameter that we should look for when seeking health is happiness. Right? Think about it.
Yeah.
It's
I like that.
I think it is the top of the line.
Yeah.
That's
a great metric.
Yep.
Yeah.
Joy, happiness, all of those things. So so going back to my initial thing, when you're not optimally high, the single most important thing you can do to treat and prevent chronic disease is learning how to hydrate properly. Now, there are some, like, if you give me any disease and give me enough time, I can go back and I can find how hydration is related to that. Because it is from the very onset, it's homeostasis in our body. It's the set point in our body. We need it for everything. We need it to detoxify. We need it for our cells to be functioning in every way. So if you give me something, I can, and give me the time, I can write out to you the pathway of how I believe this is related to that. And it's probably everything. Now, is there science behind everything? No, there's a lot of science behind certain things, and I will tell you what those are. There's actually good science that chronic low-grade dehydration puts you at risk for certain cancers, specifically colon cancer and kidney cancer.
Wow.
And this is, excuse me, chronic low-grade dehydration. Once again, not overt dehydration. We're talking about it. There's a different thing. Overt dehydration, you have been, vomiting from a flu and your eyes are rolling back in your head. You can't think straight. You're in the hospital. You need IV fluids. This chronic low-grade dehydration is this day in, day out that we all experience all the time. So, the more days that you experience, the more damage you're doing to your cells and your body and future health, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah. The food and hydration. We've talked about on the cover of the book. Again, it says 8 glasses a day is not the way. Coming back to the opening quote that Will read, why is just drinking water not enough to establish that optimal hydration?
So it's a little misleading because it may be enough for many people. It may be. I don't know. Once again, this is incredibly personalized to each person. And until you know what your set point is, it may be enough. But let's say we have an athlete who is, and by the way, there's this gallon water challenge that's been going around now, which I think is dangerous, actually. I think it's, unless you are a major athlete like Tom Brady, who is, really working out, really sweating, and, then you probably should not do a gallon water challenge. You're drinking way too much water. So there's a problem with overhydration. So the 8 glasses of water a day does not take into account, all right, I'm going to give you a better example. This is, I think, how everybody can really, and especially my yogi patients will understand this. So patients saying, I drink water all day long. I drink so much water. I cannot quench my thirst. I cannot satiate my thirst. I don't know why I'm drinking so much water a day. And the truth is, you're just drinking all this, what we call bulk water. So plain water, nothing in it, no electrolytes, nothing. You're drinking bulk water and you're just peeing it out. By the end of the day, you're peeing clear pee. There's nothing to it. So that water, it's more about how do we get that water into your cells, into your tissues where we need it, right? So that's what we mean by 8 glasses a day is not the way. It's not the way it may be the way for a few people. It's certainly not the way for most people. And what is more important is how much of that water is absorbed, and what makes it absorbed, what holds it and pulls it into your cells. And those are things like fiber, chia seeds, fruits, vegetables, fat. We need healthy fat. Fat is more for cellular health, right? We need our cells healthy. So we need good, healthy healthy cells, but fat also stores water in ways that we didn't really
Mm,
realize. And it stores that structured water, good healthy fat,
mm,
things like ghee. I know Dr.
mm.
Pollack had actually tested ghee in his lab. Ghee is clarified butter, right? And the that ghee is loaded with gel or structured water.
Yeah, you talk about avocados, like avocado oil, and one thing just to go more scientific, it's you talk about that in that opening quote. You use the word what is it? An oil guarded barrier, right? And that's all of our cells have this oil guarded barrier, and without that, keeping the integrity of that oil guarded barrier. Then dehydration isn't really possible, and we can fall deeper into dehydration. So, from a food standpoint, so I think there's that nice balance between, and again, I enjoy how you said it's like it's kind of personalized. Like if I'm eating, a tremendous amount of fruits and vegetables and getting these, monosaturated fats in my diet that help to keep that integrity of that oil guarded barrier, and also continually hydrating with water and other types of foods, because there's a lot of I think also we should talk about how there's a lot of food, there's a lot of hydration in food, and it comes from that gel water as well. So what is what's some of the balance there
Yeah.
that we can kind of bring in this conversation?
So I mean, I wrote a whole chapter on fats in the book because it's actually it's fascinating to me, and there's a
Mm,
lot to talk about and unpack about fats and what's healthy fats and cooking oils. And so I took a lot of liberty because I love that subject. It's not
yeah.
100% related to hydration. Cooking oils release trans fats if you cook at too high temperatures, those kind of things. But so a lot of that chapter is really about just healthy fats, what that means, and that we need them
Hmm.
in our diets. And thank God that the whole low fat craze is long gone,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Because I grew up in the 70s. Yeah,
Same.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's like I can remember my mom had low fat everything in the fridge,
Yeah.
even as a kid, low fat everything. So, but yeah, it's exactly that. So there are in our cells there are channels of how water gets into the cell. They're literally called aquaporins, and it's those channels are lined with fat, and our cell membrane is fat, and one of the reasons why we need healthy fats, our brains are fat. We need them to encase the water and the hydration in the cell. It's that simple. And when you're eating bad fats and your cells are not healthy, sorry. And so, yeah, that's the gist of the fat stuff. But diet plays a role here too. When
Hmm.
they came up with that 8 glasses a day, and historically, it's a little it's not 100% clear, but historically, in origins of it, it did take into account how much food people were eating, and then that sort of went to the wayside, and then it became 8 glasses a day. So I mean, food is hydrating. There are days that I know I can have 1 glass of water because I've eaten so much greens and so much fiber and really good food that day, that's all I need. And I'm fine with 1 glass of water a day.
Right.
I don't know if you've ever done that. I think, wow, I hardly drank any water today, but I feel great.
Well, I started taking. I was out the other night. I went to a show and had a couple beers, and alcohol really has a massive. I mean, I can feel. I'm so thankful I got to a place with alcohol that just even like a half a beer, like I start getting a headache. My body's
Yeah.
like, no, this is no good for you. But what I started to do in order to kind of combat the potential hangover the next day is I eat like an apple, or I'll take chia seeds right the night before to get into this structured water and kind of accumulate that structured water, the gel water, that easy water. We're still trying to figure out a name. I love that we're at such a new point. I mean, like they said 8 glasses a day is not the way, like when in like the 60s or something, where we
I
didn't
think in the
know any
40s.
in the 40s, right? I don't even know. They don't know like now we're just your book came out in 2018, and we're just learning about like this gel water, this fourth
Mhm.
stage of water, which I was like, how is this possible in 2022? I'm hearing about this the first time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm taking that, that new science of hydration and applying it to my diet. Because also in the book, you say related to gel water is 2 bottles of water are less hydrating than 1 bottle and 1 apple.
Yeah, I love
So
that. I
this,
love that.
yeah,
Yeah. So
this,
let me say it the opposite way. An apple and a bottle of water is probably more cellular hydrating than 2 bottles of water, because
okay,
it's
yes,
that apple's going to help bring in that fiber and hold on to that moisture, and then all the water that's locked in that apple. Yeah, I
yeah,
love that. Gina, that's Gina's saying. I loved it. I was so
And
good.
and
Yeah,
I've
and
yeah,
I've
and so
added
once again, that's
I've added
advocacy.
apples to my drinking routine as well, and
Yeah.
it's again amazing what it can do.
Yeah, it's funny. I go back and forth. And I haven't now in a long time, but having worked for Dr. Atkins, and for many years of my career, it's low carb, zero carbs. Like no carbs are the enemy. You can't, and you can't do an apple if you're on a ketogenic diet. It's gonna, you can't do that stuff. And like yeah, apples are really good foods and really important. And so, and
It's
once
the
again,
old
that's how
apple a
science
day,
is changing, right? Yeah, an
right?
apple a day keeps the doctor away, and I always say
Can
that
come
in my
back.
head. It always comes back. It's true.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I know we have talked about the water with a pinch of sea salt and some maybe a squeeze of some lemon in there, and chia seeds, and how that can be hydrating. But a lot of people think that sports drinks are the answer. Hey,
mm,
I'm going to go grab a Gatorade, at
Yeah,
the local Easy Mart or whatever.
yeah,
Why
yeah.
are the sports drinks not helpful?
Yeah, so specifically Gatorade too. Gatorade has almost as much sugar as a soda does.
ugh,
So
yeah,
it's unless you are running and not even like a 2-hour marathon, unless you're really doing some endurance sports. So I just have to say, parents, do not feed your kids Gatorade thinking just because it tastes good. It is nowhere. It is not a health drink. There's artificial colors, blah blah. But the sugar part of it, it's hypertonic. It's too much sugar in there. It's no good. um,
yeah,
Now there are other kind of like electrolyte replacements. As you said earlier on, I'm in the scientific advisory board of one of them called Cure, that
mm,
I think there is a need for, and I think there is a good thing where there's not a lot of sugar in them. There's not a lot of artificial anything, and not everybody needs it. I don't feel like the whole world needs to take electrolyte replacements, but I will say that there are, for those people who can't quench their thirst, try doing 1 packet of an electrolyte replacement a day in one water. You don't need to
mm,
do every single water with salt and lemon. You can still drink some plain bulk water, but try doing
mm,
one a day and seeing how that feels for you. I think there's a big
mm.
deal to some of those things, and there's a ton of them on them. There's a bunch of them on the market. I can't think of any of the names of the other ones, but yeah. So I think that's my big problem with sports drinks. Unless you are an endurance athlete and really know what you're doing, I would not. I would stay clear of some of those high sugar. We do need glucose, right? We need glucose for certain
Right.
sports and things, but specifically Gatorade has way too much sugar, even for the best athletes and the most endurance ones. It's still
And
too
what I
high.
remember reading in the book is that the electrolytes that they advertise that they've got in there are not even coming from the right sources, right? We talked in your book, and what we've just mentioned is the sea salt is one of the electrolyte sources that we want. And I forget what it is in these sports drinks, but it's not helpful. I guess it's just regular salt, and that's not going to really help at the cellular level.
Right. So it's just sodium. I mean, there is science in exactly what kind of how much electrolytes are needed by the body. The World Health Organization has a very specific, this is what we need when we are doing electrolyte replacements. But for at home, some natural salt has a full spectrum of minerals, not just
Mm,
sodium, that we need. Like that's how we create structured water in the body. That's one of the ways that we create it, adding some of
mm.
these full range of minerals to the body. That's way more hydrating than just sodium alone.
Let's go. Let's go. Keep talking about the body, right? Hydration. We're always talking about the body with hydration, but let's get deeper into this micro movement and fascia, right? And
Yeah.
how to effectively move water through the body.
Yeah.
Is really, so it's like, if you're sitting, working all day, it's like, why, you go out and buy a little gadget like John, he's pedaling underneath his desk, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
should be
He
pedaling
might
right
look like
now.
a fool, by somebody walking by, and it's like, what's that wacko doing? But this wacko over here that I call my co-host is doing it for a very specific reason that we got from your book. So let's talk about the fascia and micro movements and what that has to do with hydration.
Okay. This is, yeah, we're kind of the first to really talk about this. So a few years ago, a very brilliant, I think it was a plastic surgeon, Guimberto, his name was, French, decided to study fascia by putting a camera under the skin of a living person. It was never looked at that way before. Fascia was always, looked at as a dried, desiccated cadaver you'd cut through to get to the organ or the vessel or whatever you were searching for, never even paying attention to what that was. And so just for people to know, fascia is the connective tissue webbing that surrounds every cell, every organ, everything in our body. It holds together everything, and it's everywhere. So when he decided to look at living fascia, and when you look at the video of it, it's actually quite beautiful. You realize that fascia moves hydration. It acts as a hydraulic pump, which is mind-blowing to think about, because it's obvious now that I say it. But at the time, we only ever thought that fluid gets moved via blood and lymph, right? And then it gets at the end, at the capillary level, it's sort of, gets leaked out, and but never thinking about fascia and how it actually moves, that acts like a hydraulic pump, right? So when you do movements like this, or your head up and down, you're moving fluid up and down into your brain. When you're twisting, you're squeezing fluid. Right. So this is the part where everybody starts to move with me.
Let's dance a little bit, Dana. Let's dance on the show.
I love it. And so we made up micro movements for the book. Micro movements are just that. It's just moving. Like, start from your toes to your head, first thing in the morning, do twists, twist your ankles, get fluid everywhere it needs to go. So it's our belief too that yet another reason why sitting is the new smoking, right? So you're squelching delivery of hydration to your periphery. And then the other thing I like to say about that too is, now it makes sense. We've always been told you got to move your joints to lubricate them, right? Now we understand why.
Motion is the lotion is one of our teachers, or one of our guests says, and collaborators says, she's a doctor of physical therapy. She's like, motion is the lotion, and here's why. It's such a lotion.
Yeah. And that's, it's interesting because we say in the book, body workers know this better than we do. Like any kind of body, they know. I once had a massage therapist who years and years ago, she said, I move blood. That's what she's doing. I move blood. And so she was mostly right though. She was moving hydration and blood to where it's needed. And I loved that. I was like, and then there's a study, it's in the book somewhere. I don't remember exactly where it is, but this was a really fascinating study where they took these poor soldiers and they would have them fidget one leg.
I remember this. Yes.
Yeah.
So fascinating. And then they would do muscle biopsies, and they would show that the leg that fidgeted, or the leg that didn't fidget, had as much damage to the vessels as if they were smoking a cigarette. Right. I'm sorry. I just gave the wrong. Sorry. Dehydrated people. So they would dehydrate people, soldiers, do a muscle biopsy. And it was in this low grade dehydration where they had as much damage to their vessels as if they were smoking a cigarette. So vascular damage, this low grade dehydration can do as much damage to your vessels as if you were smoking a cigarette. Really interesting.
But the fidgeting that you mentioned is in the book, where they had like people who fidgeted through the day versus people who didn't. and how they were more hydrated, and I think they had burned calories doing that too. I forget exactly what it was, but I know that there
People
was
who
definitely
fidget live longer.
live long. That's what it was.
They
Yeah.
live longer.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I got my two studies mixed in my head.
Oh,
Sorry.
no,
No.
totally
Oh,
understand.
good. Well,
Yeah.
what does it look like, Dr. Dana, if cranking out 8 or 10 hours a day at a desk, sitting most of that time, not getting up and doing this kind of micro movement? Like, is it something like I need to go to an hour yoga class? I need to just, move for a few minutes. So what is this micro movement? And is it something that's throughout the body from head to toe kind of thing? And how much is needed? And how often, I guess, if you're in a day's cycle, in order to stay with that optimal hydration.
Good question. Once again, everybody's individual. So I think what comes to mind is a story that a patient had told me. She worked for BlackRock. BlackRock is a big banking firm here, and they had taken the garbage cans away from the cubicles so that did I write this in the book? I don't
No,
remember.
it's in the book. Yeah.
Oh, I
That's
did.
great.
Okay, I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So they take so that they would be having to get up and move a little bit throughout their day. At least go throw your garbage, down the hall or something. Just like one reason to get up. You got to create little hacks of getting up. So like, I'm in my office. I'm really not sitting at my desk all day. I used to when I was studying or something like that. But I'm up. I'm going to get patients. I'm walking in. I'm examining them. I'm up and down all day long. For those who sit at cubicles, you have to make time to get up. If it's set a timer, stand up, do some deep knee bends, make up your micro movements, have a little thing under your desk, have a standing desk, do ankle swirls. It's you just have to. Gina's got some good ones where my co-author, if you ever go into an elevator with her, it's the craziest thing. I was like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm doing micro movements. She kisses the sky in the elevator. She just goes up and then she goes down.
She gets her lips involved, right?
Yes, exactly. But truly, like blinking really hard is, it feels good. It feels good. So like, we really do. They've done studies and kids, I'm making up this number. I don't remember the exact number. Babies have something like 400 movements that they can do. As we get older, we have like 40. We lose all of that. So it's important to do all of these things, even wiggle your, physically wiggle your ears, just be in your body, fidget, just be aware of it when you can. If you can't be aware of it, set a timer to get yourself up every hour, just to stand up, do a few deep knee bends, do some twisting, sit down. You will be more productive because of it.
So now when my 5-year-old, my 3-year-old, and my 10-month-old are squirming around, I'm not going to say sit still anymore. I'm going to say keep fidgeting.
Move with them, John. You can move with them. Right?
I know I should take a lesson from them.
So there's been some pilot studies that Gina did with some schools here, where kids, speaking like, I can't believe teachers still tell kids to like sit still. No, let them move. And so some of the pilot studies that she did, where she had kids, like they had a map of where the water fountains were. She gave them information on why this is good for them. They would raise their hand, go out, go get their water. And it turned out that they performed better on tests in the long run. They performed better at home. They performed better in school when allowed to move and be and drink and do. So yeah, that sitting still. Yeah.
Yeah, Lindsay, let me just our Lindsay, our executive producer, or EA, she wrote in the notes there, or just kind of pinged us about the Pomodoro method, which I'll talk about that in a second. And we're really like the show. We're really trying to continually create a foundation of healthy minds and healthy bodies. And a couple weeks ago, we had Kara Bradley on talking about flow state, and one way. And this is also hydration is a big part of being in that flow state. And that Pomodoro method, in case you guys need to go back and listen to it, I'll remind you here, is 25 minutes of concentrated work, setting a timer, 5 minutes away, micro movement time, get up, move your body, maybe get some more water, but just kind of replenish yourself physically in that 5-minute little break, and then back to another 25 minutes. And I've been working in that 25-minute, like John and I are doing a bunch of work right now together, and it really takes a lot of focus. And I started writing in this 25-minute segments and 5 minutes off, and I couldn't believe, like, within an hour and a half or 2 hours what I accomplished.
Yeah.
And it's again, like, is how do we stay optimally focused? How do we stay optimally, like, emotionally alive? How do we stay physically alive? And what we're speaking about here with Quench and all this new science and the micro movements and the fascia and everything, learning about gel water, is all to serve, how can we, be the best physical human that we can. And it's amazing how just little hacks can keep us, as much as I want your office to be filled with patients, Dr. Dana, it's like we can stay out of the hospital. We can release so many chronic issues and so many chronic disease. And just by staying optimally hydrated. I mean, this has been such a fabulous discussion. Thank you.
I would be so happy if my office had no patients and just all preventative medicine. It would be my dream. It would be my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope we get there someday.
Yeah.
One thing that we touched on in the intro, and we discussed briefly before we hit record, Dr. Dana, is meditation, how that can actually keep you hydrated. Can you talk briefly about that? Because again, I want to respect your time, and I know we've got only a few minutes here left, but can you talk briefly about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with, all of the chemicals that are released, well, even pre-meditation. So all the your dopamine surges, all your neurotransmitters are on overdrive, right? So we need to be hydrated in order to flush them out, right? And so meditation also helps with lowering that. But if you're not hydrated, none of that's going to happen, right?
Right.
So we can't even detoxify if we're not hydrated. Detoxification is especially in this day and age. We talked about environmental earlier. We're living in a toxic world. There's no way around it, and we need to detoxify. I think it is probably, once again, advocacy, not science, but I think our inability to detoxify what's being bombarded at us is probably the number one cause of illness right now. I think more than anything, at a root cause level. So, and just think about it. How do we detoxify? We detoxify by peeing, by pooping, by sweating, by breathing. We're breathing out vapors. All of these things are detoxifying. So if all of them require hydration. Right. So that's a roundabout way. Once again, if you want me to, I could probably, had enough time, I could really give you the pathway of exactly why meditation.
Well, I'll tell you, everybody should just pick up the book and read it for themselves. How about that?
Yeah. Well, also part of the book, and I'd be remiss if I didn't, talk about this. It's like you have a lot of, you talk about smoothies every day. Yeah. Which is part of that, kind of the Quench program, which we can talk, John, just briefly here. But what I have here, I'm going to make this for my parents, is watermelon gazpacho, which sounds fantastic and delicious. And it's also has that gel water because it comes from plants and fruits. So, but maybe you can just touch on a little bit of the Quench program, which is in the book, and as a way to kind of send us off.
Yeah, it's so easy. I mean, this is the thing. So I will leave you with a couple of tips that I leave for everybody. Like, if you start these things, you will be amazed. Most people are amazed at how different they feel. So the Quench program, it's 5 days, so you can do it Monday through Friday. And it's just about staying on top of your hydration. We incorporate recipes for micro movements as well. But one of the things that I tell everybody, and I used to apologize because I thought it was so overplayed or over talked about. I don't apologize anymore because I think we all need to hear it, and including when I give my talks to other holistic doctors. Like, I used to be like, oh God, I'm going to tell them they have to drink a green smoothie a day. We all need to hear it. We all need to hear it all the time, right? So. So I think what I mean by a green smoothie is a blended green. You could go get a cheap blender, blend your greens with water, and then add whatever you like. It could be berries, it could be lemon, it could be ginger, it could be some chia seeds, it could be herbs and whatever you want in there. This is not like a milkshake, though. I'm not talking about yogurt and protein powder. That's a meal. right? So a
Mhm.
green smoothie a day, try to get into that habit, life-changing for so many people. So that's rule number one. And that's in the program. There's tons of recipes in there. The
Yep.
program, we could, if in the 5 days, we actually say do 2 a day, because that's really gonna plump your cells and your skin and everything. So number 2, you want to start your morning. You want to preload your water, and this is how desert people hydrate. They sort of soak all their organs with a big, 8 to 16 ounces first thing in the morning. And in that first thing of water, you want to do some lemon. You could do some chia seeds, let it sit overnight, and then drink it down first thing in the morning. While I leave it at my bedside, so don't forget to do it. It's right there. You want to do your morning micro-movements while you're still in your bed. Twist and turn on your pillow, lift your feet up in the air, do some ankle swirls, do some wrist swirls while you're in bed still. Then you're ready to start your day. So first, glass of water first thing, a green smoothie a day. Another practice I think is really good is a glass of water before every meal. It tends to fill you up. It's a good way to get extra hydration in. So I get a little pushback on some people, like, oh, we're not supposed to eat it. It washes out my enzymes, but before your meal, you're completely fine. It's a great practice to get into. And there's some studies that show people who are dieting and do that tend to lose a few more pounds than people who don't. And then there's that's really all it is. We give some meal planning ideas. You want to, just big picture ideas. You want to try to get rid of processed foods. You want to eat a whole food diet. You want to limit carbohydrates, or not even carbs, sugar. You want to really limit sugar in your diet. If you wake up to pee in the middle of the night, especially, older men, that can be a problem. We give you ideas on how to maybe do that better. And that might be like a fatty snack before bed and a cup of tea, or something that's going to hold on to that fluid a little bit longer for you. So that's really what the 5-day plan is. It's just some big, simple ideas. It's easy. And like anybody can do it. It really is. And like I said, first thing, start here before you start on any diet plan, any nutrition plan, any lifestyle change. Start here, and then you'll see where it goes. You'll be able to move more fluidly in the long run, right? Movement.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And that plan is in the book. Again, I'm going to plug the book one more time. It is in the back of the book. Check it out, along with those micro movements. But aside from that, Dr. Cohen, what's the best way for people to find you if they have any questions about the book or about hydration in general or anything else?
Yeah, my website is www.drdanacohen.com. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook.
Fantastic. We'll make sure that is in the notes.
Thank you.
And, rather than a closing grounding practice, why don't we do some closing micro movements together?
Wow. All right. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think it's just
whatever that may look like for you. Again, that is covered in the book. Maybe some ear to shoulder work.
Stand up.
Standing up. Yeah, let's do it.
I'm not standing.
That's okay. I'm going to stand up.
You don't know what's on.
Or what's not.
Twisting your torso.
Yeah.
Twisting your torso, twisting your head.
Chin
maybe
to
doing
chest.
Yeah, exactly. Just getting that movement. If you're listening to this, if you're watching it now, check it out. We'd love you to, get some of those micro movements to get that hydration where you need it. So, Dr. Cohen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Thank you so much. It has been highly educational, and we are better for it. And hopefully our audience will implement some of the lessons that you have shared here today and in the book.
I'm so happy to meet you guys. I hope our paths cross soon.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, thank
person.
you. Thank you, Dr. Dana. I appreciate it. Yes. God bless, and I appreciate coming in today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Peace.
Thanks for joining Will and Jon on Men Talking Mindfulness. If you enjoyed the show, please like and share it with your friends and family, and please, we would appreciate a review too. Until next time, this has been Men Talking Mindfulness. Thanks for showing up.